grateful to I'm just grateful to have the opportunity, man. I see the stuff that you have. You've had a bunch of my kids on, which is great. So I think it's awesome what you're doing to, you know, not only just have people on and be able to tell their story, but just have good conversations about, good things that are going on in life, right? Like we need more good in our world.
Yeah.
I'm just walking in my purpose on purpose. I got the faith, I know I'm worth it. Protect my inner peace, I'm digging deep and really on the scratching surface. It ain't perfected, but it's perfect. Yeah, if it's purpose, I'm for certain there's not a certain person, no burden that can divert, no envy or greed. This version of me, this journey to please, this heart on my sleeve can easily see, transparent to see. He called me to lead, but people just leave, refuse to believe. I choose to receive the grace that he gave, embrace the mistakes he made us away. No need to compete, we all finna eat. The table awaits, we saved you a plate, so come take a seat.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have with us a great character, great developer, great trainer, great student of the game, one who's selfless. He takes time out of his schedule to make and improve the lives of kids, not only on the court, on the field, but even off the field. He's been doing great work all over the city of Toledo, Northwest Ohio, and even furthermore. And he puts his all and his heart into his training. Today we have with us the one, the only, Mr. Ryan Christie. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. Can you share a little bit about your sports background and how you was influenced coming up, and then take us into what had you, wanting to be a trainer and, a developer?
Yeah, so I grew up in a basketball family. My dad played basketball. My grandpa coached. So I've just been around the game my entire life. My dad coached my entire life as well. So some of my earliest memories are with him on his teams, being the little ball boy that was running around on the bench, and being around, like I said, his teams as he was coaching. And my dad was also a great coach. I think he won Coach of the Year in the state of Ohio a couple times. So I've just been around basketball in a different way than most people have been for as long as I can remember. So I always knew that basketball was going to be a huge part of my life for my entire life. I never really knew what it would look like as I got older, if I was going to be a coach, or obviously everyone has the dream of being, playing at a high level and, making it as a professional and whatnot. But I knew that my life was going to be somehow connected to basketball. So my dad coached at Central Catholic, and he had some great players. He coached with a coach that is one of the best coaches I've ever been around, in Jim Welling. And I think that just made me fall in love with the game. Some of the guys that I was around as a kid were Drew Lehman, Deshaun Kaiser, Deontay Cole, Keith Tobridge, CJ Bussey. I was really fortunate to be around really great athletes that played at a really high level when I was in 4th, 5th, 6th grade. And I wasn't, my dad never forced me to be around any of his teams or to be around the game like that. I just fell in love with it on my own. Every day I would sit in school and look forward to him picking me up so we could go to practice. So I was around the game my entire life, and really started to commit myself to basketball and trying to become a great basketball player from an early age. And that led me into high school. I graduated from St. John's, played with Vince Williams, who's now in the NBA, played for Ed Heinschel, one of the all-time winningest coaches in the state of Ohio, and then went on and played my freshman year at Capital University. So, like I said, basketball has always just been a huge part of my life. I played golf a little bit in high school, played football back in junior high. So I've, been around sports, but just having that experience being a coach's kid was one that was unbelievable at the time. And even now, like, those same guys are guys that I still have relationships to this day. So I'm extremely grateful for all that. But I think that just kind of created that lifestyle of being a gym rat at an early age. And obviously that's what I do now. I'm on the court almost every single day, but this is just like a part of who I am at this point.
Yeah, and you are really in tune with fundamentals, really in tune with getting it right. Like I even just seen a recent clip that you had of Grace VanSlen. Shout out to Grace. We definitely got to get Grace on.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Gonna do great thing at Michigan State. I had a roommate, Chance Gray, on. That's my college roommate's niece. I had her on, so I've been trying to get Grace on for a long time. But to see you guys worked on this move, and then to see how she used it and implemented it in the game, like you were detailed even in your training sessions. Is that things that you got for your dad and that you got from just being around the game, or is that something that's just inside you that you can see?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. Like, because I've been and seen so many basketball games, seen so many good players, I've been able to see the small details of what makes really good players the way that they are. But like I said, I've been around a lot of really good coaches. And I think the one thing that I've always noticed is the best coaches are the ones that are the most prepared. There's no secrets to why programs have success. And I try to take that same approach in everything that I do as well, right? So when Grace, she told me that she was going to be back for a couple weeks here, these couple weeks in August. They had a little bit of break before their season. I immediately hit the notes and started planning out everything that I wanted to work on so that I could be as prepared as possible. Everything that we're doing is not only good stuff, but it applies to her game, right? It'd be pointless to go get in the gym and work on things that Grace is not actually going to use. But if we're able to find what type of moves do you do? What type of shots are you good at? What's your game? We can be really specific in the things that we work on. So, yeah, I think it just comes down to my preparation. I'm never going to go into workouts where I don't really feel prepared, right? I'm not just winging it out here. I'm trying to be as specific as possible and as detailed as possible with everything that we do.
Yeah. And how was that when you were at St. John's, being that you grew up with Central Catholic around it with your dad and all that? But then when you played for St. John's, was it, man, I gotta be against y'all when we play, but then afterwards it's still love?
Yeah, I mean, I actually started at Central Catholic. So I
Oh, okay.
played until my junior season and then transferred to St. John's. So that made it even bigger implications on the line.
Yeah.
But overall, I mean, it was a decision that was best for me and my goals. But yeah, it was definitely a little weird because all my friends were still at Central. Once we got in the lines and the clock started ticking, we weren't friends. But
Yeah.
after, it was good to be able to still have those relationships with those guys.
Yeah. So after you get out of Capital, did you start doing the training then? And who was your first client, first athlete that you had?
Yeah, so when I came back from Capital, it was actually a really low point in my life because it was the first time in my entire life that I didn't have basketball. I wasn't preparing for something. Like I told you, I started committing myself to the game of basketball at a really early age. I think I took over 100,000 shots before I even got into high school. So I was already living in the gym, even when I was in elementary, junior high school, before I even got to high school. But so that was like the first time that I actually didn't have basketball in my life, which was, it was hard for me. I had to really find out who I am as a person without basketball because my entire life had been built on it. But I spent a little time. I, went to college, was a normal kid for a little while, but I could feel that itch starting to come back in. And obviously it did, and it got me back around the game. And that's where I actually started getting back into it at St. John's. So while I was still finishing up school, I started coaching there, and that kind of got me back into a different relationship with the game of basketball, not so much as a player, but on the other side of it as a coach. And that's where I really started to fall in love with things again, because I feel like I fell out of love with the game after I got into high school when I was playing in college, and then kind of re-fell back into it with the coaching. In terms of my first client, the first kid that I ever worked with, his name was Josh Turbin. And Josh is now in his senior season at the University of Findlay on a full scholarship there. And Josh and I actually trained virtually. So this was during COVID. It was the first time I had ever done anything like this, but I was really grateful to have Josh as my first client because he was absolutely locked in. Everything that we talked about, everything that we planned to work on, every workout, he was obsessed. And that made everything way easier for me because I didn't have to try to force him to try to do what we were already doing. He was begging me for more workouts and asking me questions and stuff. But the main thing that Josh and I were working on was his vertical and athleticism. So we were hitting it hard. He was obsessed. He bought in completely. And Josh added 6 inches to his vertical before his senior season. And kind of a funny story to go along this. I never got to see Josh play until his senior year. And I went to a game where they played against Rogers. So Josh is from a small school outside of, it's called Ottoville. So it's like kind of by Lima. And I finally got to go see him play. Obviously, I know Rogers being in Toledo, didn't know what to expect. And it was a full circle moment because Josh went absolutely crazy and scored 53 points.
Wow.
When I went to watch him, which was unbelievable. And to add on to that, had his first ever in-game dunk. So when Josh and I first started working together, he had never dunked a basketball before. And then to go see him for the first time drop 53 and have a dunk in game was like that moment that kind of tied everything together for me. To see his family, to see him, feel like all that work had paid off, and, just him embracing me after the game and telling me how thankful he was for me. That was like that thing that was like, okay, this is exactly what I want to be doing. And that was kind of that moment where I was like, I'm going to drop everything else and I'm going to focus on this because I feel like I can make an impact on athletes and help them get to the next level.
Yeah. Did you have a moment where you looked up to other besides your dad, even when you started your training, that you looked to other trainers as mentors or got advice? How did you shape your philosophy? Like this moment sort of shaped it as well, but did you use other things or people to help shape the way you were going to continue after that?
Definitely. I'll continue to keep saying it, but I'm really fortunate to be around. I've been around really good coaches and really good trainers my entire life. And I think that's kind of established a standard for me on how you conduct yourself in this industry. So yeah, I was around a lot of really good trainers. One of them being Nick Swint. I'm going to give you some name drops for you here, but Nick Swint was someone that had a huge impact on my life. I don't know where I would be in this industry if I didn't have that relationship with him. I was also really fortunate to connect with Ben Patrick early on in my journey. Ben Patrick's the creator of ATG. He went mega viral on social media, was on the Joe Rogan podcast, and I view Ben as a great mentor of mine. I just got back from Tampa a couple weeks ago where I got to go down there and work out with him and train with him. We actually played a pickup basketball game together. So those are 2 guys that definitely made a huge impact. And then there's some others that have impacted me as well. Paul Fabric's PJF Performance on social media. There's another guy named Steven Sorrenzio who trains with USA Track. I'm a person that I like to learn. I've never tried to make myself out to be some sort of like genius in this field. I've been really fortunate to learn from a lot of other great coaches and trainers that have taught me so many different things on training, on elevating your performance, on being a great coach, and also just having a great role model and mentor in your life. And that's the same approach that I try to take with all of my athletes as well, is trying to take it deeper than just helping you increase your vertical, but having a resource in your life that has been through all the things that you've already been through. I think that's what I've become most passionate about, is not only, trying to elevate the performance of everyone that I'm around, but when I saw that my impact was greater than just their sport, that makes it way more fun and gives you a greater purpose. Because at the end of the day, you can't have sports in your life your entire life, but if you can have someone that really has a good impact on you, that's going to last forever.
Yeah. And what would you say to young up and coming trainers that want to do this, that really got a heart for it and not just to do it to earn extra money? Like, what would you say to a young person that's starting to try out to be a trainer?
Yeah, I would say, just from my experience, try to learn from as many other people as you possibly can. There's always other people that have been doing it longer than you, have been doing it different than you. The more information that you can learn, I think the better position that you're going to be in. But I think just being passionate about results and the impact that's further than the sport that you're playing, right? So like I was just saying, having an impact on people that's greater than just increasing their vertical or helping their jump shot, right? Like, how can you actually touch this person and change their life in a positive way outside of the sport? I think the more that you make that a focus and the less that you focus on money and those different types of things, the more that you're going to find success. But for me, everything has always been built on results. And that's why I have been able to continuously work with Grace VanSlen and some of the people that I've worked with, because we're getting better, and if you have a business that you're trying to grow in this industry, if at the end of the day, if you're not helping people, if they're not seeing results and it's just like a waste of their time, then it's going to be hard to grow that. So the more that you can help those people get results and continually get the best out of the people that you work with, you're always going to be good no matter where you are or what stage that you're in.
Yeah. How do you see the state of basketball right now, women's and men's? How do you think it is going, even with the fundamentals aspects of it?
Yeah, I think the game has, completely changed, especially since even when I played, the game has changed so much. I think with basketball analytics, with social media, with just, basketball is a sport that has been around for a long time. And naturally, it's going to evolve over time to have, to see like the things that we're seeing today. Players like Victor Wembanyama, these players that, basketball has essentially become positionless, right? And we can even keep going back to Grace in the women's game. Grace is 6'3", but she has point guard skills for being a girl that big. She can step outside, she can shoot it, she can handle the ball, she can take it to the basket. So I think the game is evolving to positionless basketball where skill dominates over everything, and shooting is probably the most important skill out of those. In terms of a fundamental aspect, I think that some people look at the game of basketball and they compare it to what it may have been in the past, and they might say like, well, we've lost the fundamentals of the game, which might be true in a way, but I think in another way, the fundamentals that are needed in modern basketball are just different, right? Like, we're not playing out of a triple threat as much as we used to maybe 10 years ago, right? We are finishing at the rim differently, right? The shots that we're taking are much more different, right? So I think the fundamentals of the game have also evolved the same way that the overall game of basketball has evolved as well, right? So I think that we are in a point with basketball that it's at the highest level it's ever been. And I think a clear indication of that was just the most recent Olympics. To watch those guys, especially Team USA, to see the things that they're doing, the plays that they're making, you almost don't see a lot of the simple fundamentals that they do, whether it's defensive positioning or rebounding or running the floor. All of those guys do all of those things all the time. So you don't even recognize that LeBron James is in the right spot in the defensive end every single possession, So I just think the game of basketball is in a great spot, and it's so fun to watch this new generation of hoopers come up and see them grow with the game as well.
Yeah. Last couple questions. I'm gonna get you out here, but since you said the U.S., let me ask you this real quick: the fact that Tatum didn't get in those clutch moments, do you think that the coach thought that he wasn't going to be able to be used how he needed to be to help them win because of the lineups? Was the lineups that came in with your basketball mind and IQ? What was your exception to seeing him not get in, and Steve Kerr saying we really couldn't get him in at those different time points?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think that there could be a debate that could go on and on about this. From a top-down view, I think that there's guys on the team that are better than Jason Tatum. I think Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, and LeBron James are three of the best players that have ever played the game, and those guys need to be on the floor. So I think it comes down to that, like the level that team was playing at and the level that some of those guys are at. It's hard not to keep Steph Curry on the floor at all times. Right. It's hard not to have LeBron James on the floor as much as possible. But I think when you have some of those guys that are more ball dominant, you have to find guys that can find a role without the ball in their hands. And I think that's why they picked up a guy like Derek White. They picked up a guy like Drew Holiday. They picked up, and Devin Booker had such a big role because Devin Booker didn't need the ball in his hands to make an impact on the game. And I think the type of player that Jason Tatum is maybe that is the case a little bit more for him is he needs the ball, right? He should not play someone that just won the NBA finals. But, you know, I think that just goes to show how high of a level that team was. And some of those guys that are on that team, like I said, are going now as all-time great.
So, the question I have been wanting to ask you as well, how do you find balance? How do you keep yourself energized, being that you pour into your work, you're committed, your dedication, and even the way that you impact your athletes that you train? How do you find balance?
Yeah, I would say honestly, it's definitely changed. When I first started, I didn't really have a whole lot of balance. I was so motivated. I was so passionate. I loved what I was doing so much that I felt like I didn't need balance, right? I could wake up every morning and have that motivation to just go do it, right? And, I've been going at it for a couple years now, for a few years. And I feel like that motivation kind of changes a little bit, right? It's not as fresh. You're not in that honeymoon phase as much. So I've definitely needed to find balance in my life. And I think I've been really trying to work on that, especially the last year, because it got to be so much of a grind where I was like losing touch of my own life and my own personal mental health and my own time where I was like, man, I feel like I don't have any time for myself anymore. So I like I said earlier, I play golf. That's something that I do as a hobby of mine that I really enjoy. That allows me to focus on like being in the present, right? I really enjoy being around family. Um, and also just I enjoy taking care of myself, right? So I enjoy planning out my sleep so that I know I can be prepared for the next day. I enjoy trying to eat really healthy and feel my body the right way so that I continue to feel good. So I think I've been able to find balance and, you know, maybe taking some of that time that I would have spent on the court a couple years ago, those extra hours and stuff to being with my family more, being more present in my personal life, creating more habits in my life that are leading to good things, right? Whether it's like I was saying, like golf, right? Or my diet, or even just like keeping your room clean and doing laundry and just like keeping everything organized. I think that's a great way that I've been able to find balance. So I'm not just all over the place and not spending any time on myself.
Yeah. Do you offer or do you kind of like coordinate meal plans for different athletes, and how important is that for the younger athletes to make sure that they're eating properly?
Yeah, I think diet is extremely important for a couple reasons. Number one, it's going to have a huge impact on your performance, right? So, there's a reason that LeBron James is playing in year 20, whatever, and still looks like he's in his prime, right? Because he fuels his body the right way. So, I think if you want to impact your performance, your diet is incredibly important. And everyone knows that, right? I would also say that just your overall health in general, right? And I work with more than just athletes as well. I work with adults that are trying to be in great shape, with people that are just trying to stay fit. And I think we also tend to forget about the fact that a lot of the food that we have out there today is not good for us. It has seed oils, it has preservatives, it has forever chemicals. There are microplastics in all of our stuff, right? So not only fueling our body to impact our performance, but fueling our body to live a healthy lifestyle with no disease, with no sickness. That's even become more important for me, especially because I'm not playing as much. I'm not on the court preparing for my season or anything, right? I just want to be healthy. I don't want to get sick every time that the seasons change, right? Like I want to have a healthy lifestyle. So I think just looking at your diet from that perspective as well is really important. But I don't necessarily do meal plans. I'm not like the best chef in the world myself, but I think that I just like to give insight on what type of things are actually good for us to eat, right? What type of things do we need to be putting in our body? Is your pregame or pre-practice snack a processed granola bar that comes from a box and a wrapper? Well, maybe we should look at the ingredients list to see why we shouldn't eat that before practice, right? Maybe we should look at the ingredients list and try not to eat high fructose corn syrup or sucralose or, citric acid, right? Like, not necessarily out here trying to tell people what they should eat in terms of their diets and what meals that they should make, but just being aware of the different things that are in our food and understanding how to read an ingredient label. I think that's, eat what you want, eat what you enjoy, right? Eat things that you want to eat, right? That you have an appetite for, but just be conscious of those types of things. That's the type of questions that I enjoy answering and trying to learn that information for myself as well.
Yeah. What are your goals for your brand and your training and development? And what do you want your legacy to be looked at when it's all said and done? When people look back at Ryan and all the work and all the, training and development that you did.
Yeah, I would say for my legacy, I just want people to, think about me or, whether if they worked with me or whatever, and just say that I had an impact on them that was greater than just the workouts. And we've talked about that a couple times here today, but it's a lot bigger than sports for me, and you're an adult. You live in you're past that age of playing high school sports and stuff. Like, that eventually at one point in your life that stops, right? So my mission has been to, how can I have that impact that's greater than that? And I think that's really what I want my legacy to be is, not only was he a great trainer, not only did he get the best out of the people that he worked with, but I can tell that Ryan is really passionate about just having a good impact on my life. And if that's my legacy, then I think that's something that I would be proud of. In terms of my goals, I started a company called Beerus Athletics. You can kind of see it here. Beerus Athletics is something that is really important for me, something I'm really passionate about. I hope that Beerus Athletics can continue to grow outside of Northwest Ohio and have an impact throughout the entire country, where it's bigger than just something that's here in Toledo. I want to be able to help other trainers pursue this as a career in their life, and then also create a community of athletes and individuals, like I said, adults that are just trying to stay fit and healthy and active. Create a community of those people where, you can go and find other people out there that are just like you, and be within that same Beerus Athletics community. I think that's one of the great things about sports is you can meet so many different people from it and have so many different friendships and relationships. One thing that I always struggled with was, I was the guy that was spending all the time in the gym, doing all the extra work. And sometimes at my school, I would be the only one that was doing that for basketball. So I didn't really have any friends that I could relate to on that front. One of the things that I've found the most joy in all of this stuff is finding those game changers. That's one of our big themes for Virus, finding those game changers from different areas, from different schools all over Northwest Ohio, and being able to bring those people together and they can have those relationships, right? So I think that's something that really excites me. And, I think that in life, if you're creating relationships and you're expanding your network, it's always going to be a positive thing. So I think that's just some of my overarching goals. And notice that we didn't really talk anything on training or performance or anything like that. I just hope that overall, all the methods that we follow, everything that we do, I try to post as much information as I possibly can. Right. So I want to be able to help my younger self out there that's looking for answers on how to become a better athlete, how to become more skilled on the court, and be able to give that information out to anyone by simply going on YouTube, going on Instagram, going to be able to find all this stuff. Just making it as widely accessible as possible for all those athletes out there that are passionate about expanding their game, expanding their performance, and growing their life.
Yeah. And how can people purchase your merch and where your merch is it available and what all do you have to offer?
Yeah, so I think the merch is just a cool thing to be able to rep Beerus. I really try to make a huge focus on quality on the stuff that we put out, but I'll tell you straight up that Beerus is not a merch company. My number one thing with Beerus is I don't really care if we sell merch, if we're doing drops, I want people that are repping beers to want to be a part of this community that we have. So we do have stuff online. We actually sold out of everything recently. So I have nothing available currently, but we're going to be restocking for the fall. We've got some gear and accessories for football players coming up that we're going to be dropping: football towels, bicep bands, arm sleeves, that type of stuff. And then we'll also have a fall drop coming out with hoodies. Just a little sneak peek. The one that I'm wearing is going to be the one that we go with because it's one of my favorite hoodies that I have.
Yeah.
But I think overall, just the bigger goal and mission of Beerus is training, right? And being able to train the way that I like to train in the gym without having to be there with me. Not everyone can get to the gym at these specific times. Not everyone is in Toledo. So how do we have that impact on people? The way that we do that is through the Virus Athletics app. So we have the Virus Athletics app in the App Store. You can go on there, and we've uploaded, I think, over 15 different programs that you can do as of right now, and we're continuously making more changes to that. So I appreciate you trying to give me a merch plug, but I would say that the better thing that Beers can offer is our online training,
Yeah.
being able to follow everything that we do, from strength, from vertical training, from speed training to your skill and development on the court. My goal is to have the Beers Athletics app as a one-stop shop that can help you get yourself to the next level. So like I said, Beerus Athletics in the App Store. You can find us all on the social medias as well, Instagram mostly. Beerus Athletics. You can also go to my profiles, but that's where you can go for Beerus.
Yeah, and I definitely want to support. I want to grab some, and I got some young athletes here too that I would love to be a part, but just to sow into you and your brand as well. If someone wanted to have you as a trainer, how would they go about doing that?
Yeah, I think just message me on Instagram would probably be the easiest way. I think I have my business line connected on there as well. So, you know, uh, closed mouths don't get fed out here. If you want to train, hit me up and let's talk about it, right? If it's something that we can figure out in person and we can make it happen in person, you can come join in on our different groups and sessions. Let's do it. If that's not the case, let's figure out a way that we can help make an impact on you on your own with the app. Maybe there's some stuff on social media that I've posted that I can guide you to. Like I said, my thing here is to not gatekeep as much as possible and be able to have Virus and the Virus methods and the way that we do things as widely accessible as possible to anyone out there that is willing to put the work in. So feel free to message me and get connected and ask questions. I'm here to help and want to be a resource for all those people out there that care to commit themselves.
When you was at St. John's, was Tyson Anderson there as well?
Tyson was, yes.
So that's why when you were saying it earlier, Tyson, I was coaching with Keaton White, Coach Key, with him at King, and Vince played
Yeah.
with, Coach Rayshawn Craig, and he was playing point guard. So I've been knowing Vince since he was like dominant, like, man, this guy gonna be great. You played with an NFL player and an NBA player and probably trained other people that went professional. Like, do you
Mhm.
sit back and just think about the times y'all had, when y'all was at school, being that they're at the top now?
Yeah, I mean, we've had multiple guys from our group of friends that are now professional athletes. Dallas Gant's playing for the
Oh yeah,
Minnesota
yeah,
Vikings.
yeah.
Ryan Dooley's playing for the Tennessee Titans. So yeah, I think that it was insane, honestly, to have, like, even just thinking back on some of the practices and the years that we had. We had practices with multiple professional athletes in there. Um, it was so high level. It was so competitive. But one thing that I'll say about all those guys is how humble they are. You would have guessed that Vince Williams was probably one of the best players in the entire country, if you talk to him. And that's one thing that always gave me even more respect for Vince, for Tyson, is that they were just such great guys to be around, to be friends with, so selfless in all aspects, not only on the court, but just as a person. So I think that's cool to just see that, and just a reminder for athletes, for anyone, honestly. Those are guys that were at the highest level, getting national recognition. You knew they were going to be big, but you would never really be able to tell it. So I think that's just one thing that really sticks out to me.
Yeah, and you forgot about the professional trainer that they had on the team, Ryan Christie.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, you resemble all those great characteristics too. Man, I just want to thank you for coming on here. Like I said, I wanted to spotlight you because I know you do it for what you love, your heart, and I know I'm glad you said it, so I didn't have to throw it as a question. You don't gatekeep. You want the athlete to be better. You want the player to be able to learn more than just basketball, but like have it as a way of life. So I'm spotlighting you for that. And, I just pray that God continue to bless you, bless your brand, give you influence, give you favor in every arena that you step foot, that may he connect you to the right people that needs to see, that needs to hear, maybe all the athletes that need what you got inside of you, because God blesses us with great gifts and talents to be able to pour into them. And you're doing amazing. And it's more than just basketball that you're doing. So, I just want to salute you and tell you keep going, keep pushing. Sky's the limit for you, for your brand, for Versus, and for whoever that is impacted by what you do.
Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate that. And, just having these relationships, like I was saying earlier, network is the most important thing, just being able to connect with each other. Let's continue to keep a open conversation. Let's keep going back and forth. I love what you're doing as well. And, I can even say something to Grace that she needs to hop on and get on the pod with you and stuff. But, I'm just really grateful that God has put me in this position.
Yeah.
Um, to be able to impact so many different lives. But like I said, I'm really passionate about getting the best out of every person that I'm around. And I'm going to continue to be that way. That's just kind of how I am at this point. And I'm just fortunate to be in the position to be able to do all this stuff. So I appreciate you having me on, man. Let's continue to keep talking, and I'll make sure to get some beers your way as well.
Yeah, yeah, and we definitely gonna do this again. Thank you. Time is something that you can't get back, so I respected the time, any time that I could have got from you, because I know the impact and I know what you're doing, and I know the impact you're making in the surrounding area. So,
Yeah, I appreciate it. I like that shirt too.
oh, thanks, ladies and gentlemen, Ryan Christie.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
I
VA the
got
only
you.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah, they said it's all on you.